My name is Bill Hall. I'm from Long Beach, California. For many years I was a pastor, and most relevant to what I'll be talking about right now is that I planted a church. In 1984, I started a church, and I essentially ignored all the data, all the information, the books, the seminars, and everything that was about church planting because I knew what I wanted to do. And it was really around three questions. The first question that I thought was most important was, why bother with discipleship? If I'm going to make disciples, and that would be the focus here, essentially the product of my church would be disciples, followers of Christ, people who loved others and who lived for others. If that were to be the product, the goal, the objective, then why bother with it? The reason that I would bother with it is because it's the only thing that Christ authorized us to do, was make disciples. And that because disciples are the kind of people that are going to change the world and are going to reproduce and multiply. The second question was, what is a disciple? I mean, if you're going to make them, you should be able to define them. And I found a number of ways to describe it, but in Scripture, it tells us that a disciple is a person who converses with God through the Word and through prayer. That a disciple is a person who bears much fruit on a regular part of their life. A third thing is a disciple is lovingly obedient and responds to God in obedience as they become aware of how good God is. Fourthly, a disciple is somebody who has joy and contentment, a deep sense of well-being, not to be confused with happiness or circumstances. And finally, a disciple would be a person who would love as Christ would love. And that means not just in an ethereal way, but in a very concrete way, because God so loved the world that He gave, and He gave His only begotten Son, something that was rare, something that He only had one of, something that was dear to Him. Essentially, He gave everything. And so because of these five characteristics then, I know what I'm trying to get done. I'm trying to develop an environment that people can become these kinds of disciples. And the third question then was, then how do I make those disciples? And I found that the first thing as a church planter I wanted to do was I really wanted to get people in front of me so I could talk to them and tell them about this. Not only in sermons, but in living rooms, in coffee houses, or wherever they would listen, that I could talk to them about my vision, my understanding, what God had called us to do. And then also, eventually, to have a master group, a group of people that I invited into my life that I could invest in. And like Jesus, start small, think big, and then be able to work with them over a period of time to where then they're ready to go out and do the same thing, because the leader's credo is do with them what you want them to do with others. And finally, to manage those people, not to just send them out and hope that everything works out, but that I would manage them and develop them and encourage them and walk with them through it all. So those are the three really most important questions. Why bother with discipleship? What is a disciple? And how you make disciples? If you answer those questions, you'll be ready to go.